In this Creator Series interview, I'll be talking to a creator who will share some of the secrets of live looping, as well as his experience with recording his own music in the home studio. Please welcome to Studio Live today, JP from JohnPaul Music UK. How are you doing, JP? What's going on?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, good. Very well. How are you?
I'm doing exceptionally well here. We're different times of the day. It's nighttime here. It's daytime for you. But that's just how we roll here when you're different parts of the world. Thank you so much for your time today. Now, what we usually do, for people that don't know you, your channel, your music, what you do here, let's talk about your musical origin story, your background, what got you into music. That'll be a good way for folks to get to know you and learn a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Cool. So first of all, thank you very much for having me on here. This is JP from JohnPaul Music UK. That's what I normally say. And my musical background is basically that I started very early. My dad is a sound engineer, or was a sound engineer, and I started with speakers and cables and all that kind of stuff. Then that was what was in the house. And then I found a piano, and that was the end of that. And then basically a guitar from there. So I'm a singer-songwriter, been in lots of different bands, and predominantly now I create my own music in my home studio, which is what I'm sitting in right now, and using a myriad of different things. So from the Mac to the iPad to even the phone. And yeah, just the other section of it is I do live stuff. So I do live looping. So if people come and see a show, that's what they know me for, because I've been doing it a long time. The first time I ever saw it was Katie Tunstall doing it live on Jules Holland, and I just went, that's what I need. That's the thing. And then you just go down a rabbit hole of looping and you never come back.
That's so cool. And we'll talk a lot about looping. It's something that I know very little about. I've always been intrigued by it. I've seen people do it. And yeah, we'll pick your brain on looping as we go through with the interview here today. But for people that don't know, so you have a YouTube channel, and obviously you do your live looping as well. Why don't you give us, I'm going a bit off track already, and we're only 1 minute in, but I don't know what live looping is. What is live looping? Give us the 101 on live looping.
Live looping is the process of recording yourself or a piece of music live and then playing that back instantly and then adding another piece on top and repeating that process. Yeah, that's the textbook definition. The live looping is basically that you don't necessarily need to have a band with you. But yeah, live looping is an amazing thing where you can create harmonies on the fly. You can, some people do live looping with just synthesizers or with just a guitar. I do it with my voice as well as a guitar, and I've done it with keyboards as well. And think of like if you have an entire idea for a band or an idea for a song. Imagine if you think of, like, say, let's just use GarageBand as an example. You see GarageBand, you see all the bits. Imagine you playing all those bits live. Like, so you go, well, that section. The downside is, of course, if you change the chord sequence, it changes. But then you can do the most crafty things, like take the chords out but keep the beat going, and then play them live. So you can do things like that. And yeah, I've done live looping. I think we're pushing on 15, maybe 16 years now. So I've been doing it a while.
So yeah, so for a novice like me who is terrified because I'm worried that I wouldn't be able to keep time, yeah, I've got about 15 years before I get good at it, I think.
It's one of those. It's practice, and yeah, live looping is an interesting thing, and it is something I do. I know the other side of it is basically recording, and I do recording in the studio and gear and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, from a live aspect, just the live bits, I do live looping. But it's one of those things where there's so much tech, and now it used to be you had to have something that was like £1,000. Now there's an app that's like $3.99 on here, and you can do live looping. It's amazing.
That's very cool, and we will touch on that because I know a lot of the community here on Studio Live today love the gear, they love the tech, they love to learn how to do things, and that's why I wanted to chat to you not only about looping but about home recording and about your channel and about the topics that you're covering here. So we've talked your musical background. You got into it at an early age, like most of us did. The family impact, that always seems to be a big thing here. What actually got you into recording then? So playing music early on, when did you first start going, hey, I can actually record my own music and take that journey?
It's kind of family. So it's my dad, sound engineer, and kind of born into it. We had a reel-to-reel tape deck in the house. So it's in my veins. It was just record. There's an actual thing you do. If you've got an idea for a song, you've got to get it down. But then when I was in bands as teenagers, it was kind of like, right, cool. And we got access to this 8-track recorder which had a hard drive in, which was just it's like amazing. And this guy lent it to us for like 4 days. We were like, right, let's use it as much as possible. And then of course I just went full nerd and just went straight into it and had to find out everything about it. So so I've always done that. And then I have a degree in digital music, so my degree was all about how to record, how to do live studios, which I've had a background of, but then it was honing that in. So I've always been around the studio side of things, as well as doing live stuff is obviously good fun. But I've done the home studio. I've always had a home studio. I've been very lucky to always have a home studio. I had a Tascam 4-track recorder when I was a kid, and I was just putting random rubbish down to see what I could come up with. So I've always had that. So recording is I have an absolute love for technology. So the access of technology is amazing. The fact that you've got A-list celebrity musicians actually using things like an iPad to record an EP, and it's really warming to see that it can be done, and the power in these things now is just incredible.
Absolutely, and it's why I love this series in particular, and why I got into creating videos and tutorials about creating music, is because it became so democratized that anyone that has a smartphone in their hand or an iPad or anything could actually get into recording, which is so cool. So what is it that right now you primarily use to record? Because I came across your channel because we both make a lot of content about mobile recording and GarageBand and that sort of thing as well. And Music Memos, you did a great video on that. Primarily used to record your music right now? What are you're showing us there? Yep.
The iPad. And it's a weird thing because I'm talking to you right now through my computer, and my poor computer sits there crying in the corner because actually this is more accessible. So that, and then also this is my godsend. This I'm not sponsored by them by the way, but I talk about this far too much. I absolutely love an audio interface. So an audio interface that can be plugged into an iPad is just I think it's amazing. And it's one of those things where there's people who didn't know that you could do this. I get questions all the time from different friends who are musicians, like, how are you doing this? So then that kind of spurred on the kind of thing, maybe I should put this on the YouTube channel, and that's kind of where it's kind of come from there. So so things like this, things like I've done an entire gig with that, and like literally with a phone and with an audio interface. That's it. And I've done everything from looping from that right through to putting effects through it. I just love that that discovery, being able to go, I can do this. I can plug my guitar into there and just take that and make it sound like it's a guitar in outer space. So you can do things like that. It's incredible.
That's it's very cool, and I like that, and we'll have to have a showdown later because I'm a big Steinberg fan. I know you use Focusrite interfaces there, so back and forth. I have a Focusrite too. They're all very good, but you're right that the first time you tell someone that you can plug your iPhone and your iPad into an actual audio interface, they're actually kind of blown away, and they don't realize that that's like even a possible thing to do. So that is very cool. And again, I'm talking to my computer right now, and I feel very sorry for it because I used to use it to record, and now it's iPad, iPhone 98% of the time. So the same sort of deal. So what made you make that transition originally? I mean, obviously the limitations and liking to try different things, but what took you from the computer to more of the mobile recording? What was attractive about that?
The weird thing was that I had an old MacBook Pro, 2009, and that was it. That was everything I recorded on originally. And I went through Pro Tools, I went through Logic, I went through Cubase and everything, all these different things, and it died. And I lost some work, fair enough. And that I think that's happened to everyone. But then I went, right, okay, well, I want something that stays in the studio. So this is the iMac, which is sitting there. It's I think about 2013 iMac now. So it's been here for a good good, where are we now? 7 years. And I've used that, and I've used it with Logic and a couple of other things. When I then saw the keynote for, because nerd right straight away, but Apple nerd as well. But when I saw the keynote for the new iPad Pro, and I was in that lucky process of going, I'm in the market for something portable. I went, there's all these things on YouTube. Can it replace your laptop? Can it replace your laptop? Yeah. And I was like, well, actually, there's another YouTuber, and I saw one thing on his channel, and I kind of went, yes, it can. So I obviously watch your good self, and also there's another guy, which is Henny. So Henny the business, and then there was one video he did which was basically about making beats, and I've been using looping, and that was kind of like the thing. Can I record my looping? And it was that, and then of course GarageBand. A lot of people I speak to, they kind of go, "Yeah, GarageBand, it's free, so it can't be that good." And I was like, "No, actually, it's made from the same people who make Logic. You know, they're now the same team." So I kind of like, right, well, let's see how far we can push this. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah. And we won't get into the big debate. I think the viewers here know my views on this is that digital recording at the end of the day, once you have something capable of getting 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz audio in there, it's ones and zeros. And whether it's a portable iPad, a laptop, an iMac, whatever it is, and whatever software you're using as well, it's whatever works for your workflow. And if that's what works for your workflow and it's what helps you make good music, then that's what you should be using.
I'm working with a friend of mine right now, and he's completely PC, and I'm Apple, and I'm not an Apple bash person. There's like he's using is it FL Studio, and it's amazing. What he's doing is amazing on it. So it's one of the things. It's the right thing for you at the right time. So if you've got the right, if you know, the best computer you've got is the one sitting in front of you.
100%. Yep. Agree. So let's get into it. You're a self-confessed nerd. You've told me that you like your Apple hardware, and you like your hardware as well. You're into the nerd stuff. So what is your favorite tool from a hardware perspective? You've probably already held it up there. You've already showed me your iPad, and you've already showed me your Focusrite. That's the Scarlett 2i2 3rd gen by the looks of it.
Second gen, actually. I do want the 3rd gen, so it's USB-C. No, it's fine. It's fine. That's on the toy list, definitely. So that's been with me for a good couple of years. And the 3rd gen looks absolutely lovely. The new Air option is very, very nice.
I'm still not sure what the Air does. As soon as I said that, I'm like, you don't have the Air, and then I'm like, I'm still not 100% sure what the Air does. Okay. Any other hardware tools? So with your loop, let's jump over to looping, shall we? So when you're doing your looping, you're doing a live show. I know we've gone from recording to live, and we'll go back to recording. But what other sort of hardware do you use? What do you lean on?
One of my biggest videos from 2019 was what's the difference between an RC30 and RC300, the Boss loopers. And I have used the Boss systems for years, and they're very, very good. They do exactly what they say on the tin. They are built like a tank, and that's it. I have literally just in the past 6 months switched to a new looper, which is actually made by Headrush. And Headrush make these effects processors for guitars. And then I was really surprised. They just kind of went, oh, by the way, we're making a looper. And the reason why I've gone for it is because it's a 4-channel looper as opposed to a 3-channel looper. It's completely independent of each other, but then it can be in time. And I keep looking over there because it's over there. And I also got a 7-inch touchscreen display. There's a 4 DSP processor. Basically, it's a computer dedicated to looping, but with a hardware pedal. So it's the Headrush Looperboard, which I use now for live. And the reason as well is because you can route anything in to anything out. So the routing is absolutely fantastic. The RC300 is amazing, but it's now 9 years old. So in the sense of technology, it does what it wants. And as you can see, a million people with Boss RC loopers, and they're fantastic. I do not diss them at all. They've got me so many gigs, and it's done so well. But the Looperboard is kind of the sort of 2020 version of that. And now I'm sure Boss may bring out a new version, but this thing is just remarkable.
So the pressure's back on Boss, So and I have seen that,
and
again.
It should be.
For someone like me who I won't even say I've dabbled in looping. I've barely understood looping, and then every time I've tried it, it seems really hard. And for those that have seen someone doing live looping and don't have a level of understanding or respect for it, to get the timing right, it can be very difficult. The first few times
that's the number one thing is timing. And the funny thing is, once you get loop number 1 down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, they should be in time. So that as long as that one is down, I had this amazing moment at a gig where I was doing looping. The microphone is recording, and it's a really, really close-knit thing. And there's audience like arm's length, like here. And there's one guy is looking the opposite way because he's waiting for his mate to come back from the bar, and he just goes, "Oi, Dave!" And that went into the loop. So I had a quick think and go, do I redo the loop or do I just leave "Oi, Dave" in? And then, of course, you can't take it too seriously. You've got to have a laugh with it. So at the end of the song, I just said, so that song's now called "Oi, Dave." Thank you very much. So you have these things. Also, one button press, you can erase the whole thing. And I've done that before, and it won't be the last time either. It just happens. You've got to chill with looping. It's one of those things where if it's in, it's in. But if you're into recording, it's one of those things where it's a little bit like recording in the moment, but at the same time, it can be a bit rough as long as as long as the timing of the first loop's okay, which I normally do as a beat or a rhythm. People who do looping where they start singing like harmonies first and put a beat in afterwards, I'm in awe of that. That's my awe. That's what I strive to be. I always put a beat down first because then that's kind of chugging away at the bottom. So it is practice, but it's just you just keep going.
It sounds like it's worth it. It sounds like it's worth it.
It's a labor of love. It's absolutely a labor of love.
And we are live, by the way. We're live here on YouTube. So if anyone watching live has any questions for JP, to want to put him on the spot, ask him about looping, home recording, any other topics. Jade Star, who's here live, says, I'm the same with Pete. I'm crap at looping. So there you go. I'm glad I've got someone else who is on board with me. I clearly need to practice more. And again, when I was, we had a quick chat pre-show, and I said to JP, I'm like, very selfishly, I'm going to ask you about looping, so then I can pick your brain and find out how I can do it and what I need and how to get started. But
there's a great couple of apps out there. If you've got iOS, for example, even not iOS, you've got Android. There's a couple of nice apps out there that I've done videos on. That one looks like the sort of RC300. It looks like that, which is Quantiloop. The other one is Loopy, which is really quite famous for looping like on iOS, and they're actually the user interface is actually really, really intuitive.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. So, and in fact, if you check the description, there's a link to JP's YouTube channel that you can check out down there. Head over to JohnPaul Music UK, and I'll get you to send me those links as well. So,
absolutely.
If you're watching on the replay, we'll get those links in the description as well, so you can go straight to those videos about those apps. Because I know a lot of folks here love their apps, and if you want to get into it and start trying it before you go out and buy some hardware, maybe try it with your Android or iOS device. All right, let's jump back into some questions here. We've talked, and it's actually a good segue because we've talked hardware here. What about software? As I said, I found you because you did a great music memos video. You're doing some GarageBand stuff. You're doing some a series at the moment about releasing music. So you're actually creating a song that you're going to release with DistroKid, which is very cool. What are some of the software things that you like to use outside of that? Maybe some plugins, some other apps that are maybe a little bit left field.
So plugin wise, Pete, this is all your fault, actually, because there's a great video that you did, which is all about the AUV3s. I can never remember the name of it, so I have to look at it. LRC5, there's a parametric EQ. I've been wanting that in GarageBand for years, and now because of that, it's fantastic. And then Rough Rider. Rough Rider is an amazing piece of kit. I didn't know it existed at all. So those two are really, really good to bring into. But then also outside of that, having a look at what's it called now? Prism Pro. Basically, it's a keyboard, and it's a Synth Prism, I think it's called. Someone's going to correct me, I'm sure they will. But for Synth Prism Pro, it's a really, really cool keyboard. And then the other keyboard that I absolutely love, and I plug that into it so I can play my actual keyboard, Synth One. Synth One is just fantastic, and the fact that it's an open source free system that blew me away. A new looper that I just did a video on, which is the L7 by the same people, by AudioKit Pro. They did a pretty big claim and turned around and said, "Yeah, this looper's like the RC505," and I went, "It's £3." It's £3 at the moment. I think it's going to go up to £20. I don't know how much that is in dollars, but it's probably going to be about the same. But it's it's amazing, and it takes away the idea of like with those, it takes away the idea of having sort of like set pieces. It's like, just record what you want, and then we'll just mix it together. The one app that really I want to get into for 2020, which is a bit scary for me, but also I want to have a look at, is AUM, or ORM as people call it. But AUM, it's people turn around and I've seen the reviews, but also I've actually spoken to other people, and they'll say it's brilliant. And I kind of need to do that whole sit down, close the door, like lock myself away for a day and kind of figure it out. Another app is Final Touch. So Final Touch is my little go-to mastering app, which is just an absolute. I got Final Touch actually quite a few years ago, and they've done some nice little updates to it. So it's really, really, really good. So yeah, so I've got loads of apps that I use, so I could go on forever. Sorry.
That's a good list, and in fact, you're I think you did a video on the new Looper, didn't you, by AudioKit?
Yeah, I did, because this is my Loopy brain. As soon as basically I say a Looper, I just go, oh, on Looper, and it's like, yeah, I've got to do it, and it's a new one. So it's like, right, it's not something that's like 8 years old. So yeah,
love it.
Yeah, really,
I'm putting that to my watch later list, so I think I'll be watching that tomorrow. And again, I'll get JP to send me a list of all of these links. I'll make sure I throw them in the description at the end of the video. So again, if you're watching on the replay, you'll be able to catch them. But yeah, not surprisingly, obviously, I love LRC5. I love Rough Rider. Final Touch is my go-to mastering app for iPad. I think it's just phenomenal. Does an amazing job as well. And yeah, there's a few additional apps in there that I clearly need to check out. So again, this is why I love doing these interviews, is that I learn so much. And hopefully for the folks here in the Studio Live Today community, you're learning that you got to get over to JP's channel and check out his videos, as I will be doing. Now, so we've talked about hardware, we've talked about software. A lot of folks that tune into the videos here are newer to music, or they're perhaps getting back into music after a bit of a hiatus, and they're getting back into home recording. So what's the one piece of advice that you think you would pass on to someone who is getting back, who's just starting out in home recording, or perhaps has had 10, 15, 20 years away from the music world and is just getting back into things now?
Ooh, wow. What do you want it to do? So that's probably the number one question. I say, well, what do you want to do? Do you want it to be, are you recording a film score, or do you want to record yourself on a guitar and a music piece? Are you doing synth stuff, or is it like being a songwriter? The one piece of advice, goodness me, I would say that there is more power in the iPhone than what the Beatles had on their first album. So that's, sorry, Liverpool link, I had to say it. But yeah, so but there is, it's don't take a free app for granted. You know, there's GarageBand is just incredibly powerful. 32 tracks it now, something like that, and you can basically add multiple. You know, the AUV3 system is just becoming more powerful than ever before. So yeah, so I think for anyone getting back into it, you know, what do you want to achieve out of it? Look at your end goal. Well, is it even if it's just a hobby, go, I want to get this song down. I want to get this song written. I want to get this song finished. Cool. Let's go back to there and go, well, what have you got? I've got a phone. Cool. Fantastic. Because then you just need to plug a thing in, like a iRig or a microphone that's got a little adapter. That's it. That's all you need. Don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah. I love it, and yeah, I've had similar advice from other people, and yeah, it's always fascinating to hear what people say. And I love two parts of your response there. Number one is start with why, and start with the intention of what you're actually trying to do. A lot of us go in all guns blazing, and we're just like, I'm going to do music, and without actually thinking, what am I doing it for? Why am I creating music? What do I want out of this? Am I making this to be famous? Am I making this to make money? Am I making this for self-fulfillment? So starting with why is always important, and then yeah, like you say, realizing that you don't need. And again, I know people on this channel get saying this, but you don't need all the gear. You don't need a Focusrite Scarlett 2R2 Gen 3. You don't need a Steinberg interface. You really just need like your voice memos app on your iPhone to get started, or music memos, as again you've done a video on.
If you want any inspiration about that, there's a guy, I don't know if you're aware of him, called Steve Lacy, Lacy. It's not my cup of tea for music, but he created an entire album with just the iPhone, to the point where he actually sang into the microphone with a pop shield. That was it. And he only had an iRig for his guitar. That was it. And the entire album's done by that. So that just shows the true power of what can be done. Really, really, really powerful.
Absolutely. No, I do love that. We do have some folks here live. So hello to Jade Star, hello to Woozle, who's here live, Clint, David. We've got a bunch of folks here. Soul Rack, hello to all of you who are here live. Got a question here, so I'm going to throw this in before we finish up, and it's about looping. No pressure here at all. How do you keep in tempo if you mess up on the timing? I think you touched on this briefly, but do you start over or do you try to fix it? Do you like fix it in the mix as you're going if you make a mistake, or do you just go, sorry folks, let's start again?
It's the number one question. So like, and the funny thing is, like, the question there is, do you start all over again? Actually, no, I start over again, but right at the beginning. So you're going to build an entire thing on a mess of a loop. So if you do a loop and you go tick, 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 and then you hit it and it's like out of time, I'll just keep going. And what you'll see is basically me doing sort of the pedal dance, you know, the basically going erase, da, 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 right, do it again, record. And the audience are just hearing me going dig, 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 and I'm going, right, that's in time now, and then I'll stop and then it'll carry on. And to be honest, it's down to practice. It really is, and I still mess up. Who doesn't? Because it's live. Things can happen. We're all human, but. Yeah, you could do that. The other option is a lot of loopers, certainly hardware loopers, do have a click track option. So then when you click it, you can give you a click in your ears if you want to use headphones, and then the audience don't hear that click. So the click is only going to you. And so you could set a tempo first, and then your first one, it kind of like goes, okay, well, you hit it there, but you really meant there. So, and it just moves it over. Do I start all over again? Sort of. But then I don't add any more in until I'm happy with the very, very first loop. So I know if that's solid, the rest will be okay. And then also, additionally to that, sorry to keep going, but additionally to that, a lot of loopers have an undo. So say you've gone 3, 4, 5 loops, but this one's rubbish. You can go back one. With this looper, you can do what's called peel. So you can actually peel each layer back, so you can go right back to the beginning, which I've done. So I've actually built a track up and gone da 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 da, and then for the ending, I've just peeled it back, so then it actually just comes back to the nothing, which is really, really cool idea.
I love it, and you may have answered this question because it sounds like you're in love with your new looper. But if you had to choose just one, this is iOS looper. There you go. iOS looper is one, which is best. So Mike London here wants to go out and download himself an iOS looper. Do you go to the new L7? Do you go back to one of your old favorites?
Just one iOS looper. Which one's best? Oh goodness me! They all do slightly different things. So if you're brand new to looping, then the one that helped me train my looping, I'm already doing this like a circle, is Loopy HD. So Loopy HD is the fantastic looper because actually it's well established. So they've done a lot of things for MIDI. So if you want to connect things like a IK Multimedia Blueboard, which just happens to be here, but you can connect that, and that's a Bluetooth 4-pedal board, which you can then say, well, that's play, that's pause, that's rewind, whatever you want it to be. So you can do something like that. So my answer isn't twofold. I'm sorry. So if you're looking at basically just one looper, go Loopy HD. If you're looking at sort of like the new style of looping, which isn't like circles or isn't like channels, L7. L7 is, I think they're going to do some looking at updates already to basically expand it. And I think it's going to be very powerful. The reason is because you've got 8 effects per loop.
Yeah, right. Okay. So there you go. Start out with Loopy HD and then graduate on to L7. Another question. We've got the questions coming in live, so I'm going to throw one more out here and then we're going to finish up. So we're almost right out of time here. So we're making music. Do you have a vibe or an intent for your listeners? This is an interesting one. So around the music you're creating and playing, what's your vibe? What's your intent? That's it.
If you listen to my music, you'll probably find that what I do is I write about me and my life. So my last album is called Walking Home, and it's all about basically from being just me to actually then living in this house with my partner and coming home, which is actually I've come back to live in my hometown. So yeah, it's about more, when you say a vibe, certainly not an intent for my listeners. I have a bit of a folky vibe, if you would call it folk, a little bit of folk, a little bit of rock. But yeah, my intent is actually just always to tell a story. Mainly because my story, even though I tell it as my story, you might pick it up as something that's relatable to you.
Love it. Very, very cool. Final question here. What would you say is the proudest moment that you've had since you've started creating music, recording music, playing music in your career?
The proudest moment is, wow.
No pressure.
No pressure. No. The proudest moment would probably be selfishly. There's a series of stages, which is the O2 Academy stages, and I was able to play live looping on that and got to the final of a national competition in the UK. Didn't win, but got to the final, and it was a bands competition, and I was solo artist, and I got past and beat other bands because of looping. So that was really cool, and that was at the O2 Academy in Liverpool and also the O2 Academy in Leeds. So I've been able to play 2 of them. So I'm very proud of that.
Brilliant. That is super cool, and I think that just proves that looping can indeed be very cool. And the beauty part is you do a looping gig. I'm assuming you're a one-man band. You get to
one-man band. Yeah,
they don't have to pay you.
So if I sack the drummer, then I'd sack myself. So
exactly right. You are the drummer. Then you can all the drummer jokes are directed straight at you. So that's all good. Very, very cool. Now, as we mentioned before, if folks want to check out everything that you've got going on, you've got your YouTube channel and your website are both linked down below, where people can check out all of your videos, check out your music, follow you there. I do strongly suggest that. Check out your looping video, and you just give us a quick update, because you're doing a series at the moment. You've just kicked off about releasing a new song. Just give us a quick preview of that one.
So the new series is called, and I always do this with my hands, I don't know why, From Idea to Release. From Idea to Release. And the idea is that you have an idea, and I think as musicians, as artists, you have an idea while you're walking through a shopping centre, and that idea is fleeting. If you don't get it down, then it's gone. So the idea is you've got an idea, cool. How do we embellish that? How do we make it into a song? How do we get it out there to Spotify, YouTube, Deezer, Amazon, Pandora, all these different places? So I got asked this quite a bit, and then also speaking to DistroKid. So we kind of collaborated a little bit on this 5-episode series, which is going to come out every Friday in January. So at the end of January, we'll have a song released out in the world.
Brilliant. Love it. Looking forward to definitely following along with that one. So again, jump down in the description and check that out. I will also hit up JP and make sure he sends me all those links. Someone did ask in the chat here, will we have all the different apps and the videos and everything we talked about? So JP's got homework to do. He'll send.
I talked a lot. I'm sorry. I got lots of apps.
That's all right. You're going to have to rewatch the whole thing to remember all the apps and all the videos you've mentioned. Email them to me, and I'll throw them in the description. If you didn't catch them all, watch the replay, and I'll make sure the description is updated with them. JP, thank you so much. Been a pleasure having you here and learning about your experience. Any final parting words for the Studio Live Today community here?
Thank you very much for, first of all, having me on, and also hello to everyone who knows me who's watching me. And 2020 is going to be an interesting year. I think it's the year where we can actually really elevate music. Little comment I always say about music: people think you've got to compete like X Factor style. No, a rising tide lifts all ships. Listen to as many music as you can.
Love it. Couldn't end it any better than that myself. So thank you, everyone. If you did get some value out of this, hit the like button down below. Subscribe to the channel here as well as JP's channel. They'll both be linked down below. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we will catch you next time. Take care.